Football is back, ladies and gentlemen. The build-up to the return of the Premier League begins right now on the Football Terrace. And over the next few days, we've got some great shows lined up. 2 episodes, 2 days running of Straight Facts. We've got the Friday night on the Terrace returns, the Bet Victor Top 6 show, live from the studio Thursday night, 9 p.m. as well. All building up, looking at the stories that are coming out. The first thing I want to speak about, though, today on Straight Facts is what's going on, what's going to happen this weekend, what is the competitiveness going to be like between Arsenal and Liverpool in the massive tie at 5:30. Of course, we're live after that game for the best match reaction show on God's green earth. I'm, of course, no Lee Gunner today. He's unwell, so hopefully he feels better soon. We've got 2 brilliant replacements in for him today, though. Man like Louis, big Liverpool fan. Igao is in the house as well to be giving you their views and opinions. We've got loads to delve into on the show as well. Is Harry Kane a stat padder? I want your thoughts and I want your feelings on that. Will Man United's players down tool this weekend? I want your thoughts and I want your feelings. Plus, if we hit the right amount of likes today, hit the right amount of likes, maybe you'll get clue number 2 to win that PlayStation 5 and the football boots. Without any further ado, let me introduce my guest to you this afternoon. Igao, Louis, how you doing, boys? We all good?
Yeah, I'm excited for football to be back. Like proper football. I'm done. Yeah. I'm done watching international games. Not really caring about the result, just praying that Liverpool players don't get injured, and like 3 of them have. So I'm just praying that everyone returns home safely, and I'm excited for this to basically be all Premier League football now until March. We're in the proper fun time of the Premier League.
Yeah.
I couldn't take another break in a month's time. That would just kill me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm very, very glad that it's back as well. And you mentioned those. You mentioned those injuries there. I have seen some reports today that Mane and Henderson have been training. Of course, we know that Robertson it looks like he's going to be out for it. No one knows how long yet, but he picks up what looks like a hamstring injury for Scotland yesterday. I want to go to Igao first with this. They got beat by West Ham last time out. They've been leaking goals. Arsenal have been defensively sound, unbeaten in 10. Is this the best time for Arsenal to be playing Liverpool? And will you be competitive, in your opinion, this Saturday afternoon?
I'll say this. Is it the best time to be playing Liverpool? Possibly, yes, because of their injuries and everything else. But Liverpool team, after a loss, especially in the league, is a team that usually comes out for vengeance. So after a loss is not necessarily the best time to play them. But during this time where they have all these injuries, I would say yes. Overall, yes, it is the best time to play them. But mentally, they're going to be prepared for this game more than ever because they lost to West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, what would you think, Lou? Do you feel like you'll be like caged animals, ready to fight back and kind of bounce back and avenge that? Or do you feel as though there are some deficiencies at Liverpool right now that Arsenal could exploit?
Potentially, but like you look at West Ham, they've scored 23 goals in the league. Like we conceded to 3 to them. Like they're a great team. I mean, Arsenal have only scored 13, so it's not like we're playing against an attack that's like really potent or worrying. Like you've got some great players, especially Saka and Smith Rowe. Again, both of whom have been on international duty, which is a bit of a bonus. They haven't been training all week and for the last 2 weeks sort of prepare for this like us. And for the first time in a while, feels like Arsenal have had a lot of their players involved with internationals. So they've got that sort of not that advantage going into the fixtures, but they've conceded more than us as well. So like, I think, yes, Liverpool on the whole aren't looking great, but again, like Liverpool and Arsenal are actually in a similar situation where they've kept a lot of clean sheets this season. But when they've conceded, like they conceded 5 to City, we've conceded 3 to West Ham. Like when we concede, we tend to concede quite a lot. So I think it could either be a game that's really high scoring or like a 1-0. I'm looking forward to it.
That's not a fair analysis of Arsenal because the first 3 games we conceded 9 goals. And since then, am I mistaken? No, even more than that, actually, because we conceded 5 against City, and then we conceded 2 against Brentford. We conceded 3 against Chelsea. So 10 of our 13 goals conceded, I think, this season are in those first 3 games.
Who have you played? Who have you played since those 3? Like you can't. Like, I get it.
Leicester. We played Tottenham. We played. Who else have we played? That's good. I can't really think of it, but we
not
played
really anyone.
Hey, I'm just saying. It's just not
like,
fair.
I think it's going to be an interesting game. And listen, I'm cautious because I think Arsenal are playing really well. And I've actually been quite positive about Arsenal this season. I think you guys will comfortably finish 5th. I think you've got a great team, a young team. You're full of confidence right now. And I think that is one of the most important things in football, to be confident. I'm cautious about this game. I think it could go. I don't think it will go either way. I think Liverpool will win, but I still think it could be a competitive game. I like what Arsenal are doing.
And that's the big thing for me. Is it going to be competitive? Because I expect Liverpool to win. Pound for pound, manager, players, everything across the board, even with the injuries. Nicolas has been looking excellent since he's come in for Robertson. Although I don't quite understand the calls from Liverpool fans to drop Robertson. I think he's one of the best left backs the Premier League has ever had. I actually think I think he's better than Trent as a balanced player. I think Trent is better going forward.
Yeah.
But defensively, I think Robertson is generally sublime. As a balanced player, he's amazing. And by the way, I'm not saying anyone who's getting triggered by that, I'm not saying Trent's bad. I'm simply stating I think Robertson is ever so slightly ahead of him. But even with him being out and Nicolas coming in, you're not damaged. For me, I'm really intrigued to see how competitive Arsenal are going to be. And the one thing I'd say about Arsenal in recent years is it's been very, very few and far between games against their contemporaries in terms of the money they spend. So the big 6 are called the big 6 because of the money they spend, the competitions that they've sat within in terms of Champions League. And you can maybe push Tottenham out of that and say the big 5. We know who the big 5 in the Prem are from a financial standpoint. And Arsenal invariably, barring Man United under Mikel Arteta, have nearly always been huge underdogs and then dominated in the majority of those games. Well, that's how it at least feels looking from the outside in. I'm going to be very intrigued to see how this unbeaten run of 10 games plays into the psyche and the confidence of Arsenal players. And with what I hear coming from Arsenal fans' mouths, I expect a competitive game. If West Ham can be competitive with Liverpool, there is no reason for Arsenal to be torn apart and out of the game. And there's not. I
think West Ham. I think West Ham are a much better team than Arsenal.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, West Ham for me right now are they've been maybe the third or fourth best team in the league this year. West Ham are incredible. Even longer than that, for the last 18 months, West Ham are legitimately incredible. I think, and the players I look at, I think West Ham could will pose player for player more of a problem to Liverpool than Arsenal will, personally. Anyway,
okay.
I mean, West Ham this season they've beaten City, they've beaten Liverpool. I can't remember, but I saw they beaten United, which I know is not exactly a hard feat, but West Ham are a very good side.
Let's be fair here. When it comes down to it, West Ham have been better than us for a little while now. But at the end of the day, this is an Arsenal team. You don't know what we don't know what we have. This is the first real big test since we had our turn in form. So. Yep. To say West Ham is better than us is a fair analysis, but we don't know what this Arsenal can do against a top team yet. We haven't seen that, so it is a very dangerous proposition for you guys because you haven't seen what Arsenal can do against a top team yet with this new crop of players.
Sure. Well, we saw in the but this is why I know sometimes Arsenal fans feel like rivals pick on them in the sense of every game's an acid test and people don't have faith in them until they pass it. And you've just got to understand that when you're a gigantic side that's fallen so far from grace, it takes a long time for people to believe in you. Liverpool had it. When Liverpool had that 6 months under Klopp, when Van Dijk came in, where they looked amazing in every comp, and they lost that Champions League final, there was still a lot of disbelief across the world of football, as in the fandom. Forget pundits and professionals. I don't care. I'm talking fans here. To whether or not they could challenge the following year. It was, they're always the nearly team. They're always the bridesmaids. Once they won that Champions League, people's mindsets changed. But still, people wrote Liverpool off from being able to win the league. Yeah, that's 38 games, though. Yeah, they're only 1 point away last year. Yeah, let's see what they can do. And I think that Arsenal fans have just got to almost temper themselves to that. If Zidane comes in at Man United and we start winning games, everybody will say, yeah, but it's the first 10 games. Let's see what happens after that. Do you get where I'm coming from? So I think for me, just if I'd be a football fan for a minute, I'm intrigued to see what happens this Saturday. I disagree that West Ham are better than Arsenal. I think West Ham, as in, I don't think overall they've got better players.
Oh, no.
I think they've got a very good system that's working for them. But what they have right now that I'm intrigued to see whether Arsenal are going to have in this game is belief. What I love about West Ham United is they go into these games and they don't feel inferior. They know that their way of playing can beat anybody if they all do their jobs right. And they did that against Liverpool. For parts of that game, they outclassed Liverpool as well, which you wouldn't expect to see. So I want to see whether there are parts of the game. And I think Arsenal fans who are kind of hoping for more neutrals to give them a bit more respect, even if you lose to Liverpool, but there are large parts or chunks of that game, I should say, where you're competitive, where you're on the front foot, where you're, it might be like a 10-minute period where you're overturning the ball regularly and you're breaking through that defensive midfield. People will start to look at Arsenal with a lot more fear and a lot more respect, I think. So I'm going to be really intrigued to see what happens. Viewers, we want to know what you think and feel. Can Arsenal be competitive against Liverpool this weekend? Leave your comments now and let us know. We've just gone past 100 likes, which is amazing. I'm going to do a little deal today. If we hit 400 likes while we're live, I will give you another clue. Remember, the first clue to the secret phrase was it's connected to Arsenal. If you get us to 400 likes while we're live, I will do another clue for you today. Go on, you were going to say it, Gal.
Lee just put his prediction for the game in the comments if you want to find it. But I was going to say, I generally think the game plan for me would be play how we've been playing over the past couple of games and try to press and try to play out the back and do everything. Keep to our philosophy. Don't change your game for Liverpool, because that's when you're going to get found out if you try changing it too much and tinkering too much. Stick with what's been working. I've been seeing a lot of crazy lineups where Tavares is playing left attacking midfielder or some and Tierney's playing in a back three. I don't want to see that. I just want to see us go with the same formation that we went with, 4-4-2, with Lacazette and Aubameyang. And if we want to change it up, we can change it up afterwards. Stick to the game plan that we had over the past couple of games and go at Liverpool the same way West Ham did. Don't fear them, respect them. Don't fear them, show them respect, but at the same time, don't come into the game fearful, because that's what we've been doing over the past couple of games. And I feel like this is a similar game plan to Chelsea away last year, where we nicked a 1-0 away at Chelsea, and I think we can do a similar thing against Liverpool if we go with the right mentality. And all this stuff about Robertson, Tsimikas has been a better player than Robertson this season, in my opinion. And Tsimikas playing is actually more of a plus for Liverpool than Robertson would be playing today. I'm looking more at Mane. If Mane's injured, that's a big help to us.
Mane's full training today.
If Jordan Henderson's gone and your midfield is a little bit weaker, that helps us out. But that is what I'm going to be looking for more. Robertson and Tsimikas, to me, they both had similar performances. They've been really good at times, and Robertson's been shaky at times himself.
It's big. I mean, listen, I think like the injury things, they're difficult, obviously, because like we don't know. But Mane was in full training. Henderson was at least partially training. I think he was doing his own stuff, so he'd be fine. And like the way I look at it, like Liverpool kind of showed that he was training. Like they put individual pictures of him, and I'm like, you're not going to do that if he's not going to play. I think like it just wouldn't be something I would do to kind of get people's hopes up. So I do think that I think we will be kind of like almost fully fit in a way, like in a weird way, apart from like, if you look at that team, I don't think Divock will play. I think from that team on that super chat there, I think it will be Mane instead of Divock because he's fit. And then you look at that, and that's kind of like our best 11 with only Firmino and Robertson to come in. So I think, yes, we do have injury problems, but like we're still like the main core of our team is still fit. And I think, listen, last season we managed to beat you guys with like half a team. So I do still feel confident that we're going to manage to get a result. It is at Anfield, which always, like, I know at home and it's different, but still, like, Liverpool is Liverpool, and I think Liverpool at home, especially after a loss, it's difficult.
You disagree with the Robertson Tsimikas point, because I really don't see a difference in performance.
I think Tsimikas has played better when he has played, but you have to take into consideration who he's played against. I saw a stat going around like, oh, he's kept 6 clean sheets in 6 games. I'm like, guys, one of them was against Preston North End. One of them was against, like, 2 of them were against Norwich. Like, take it into consideration. And use your stats in context.
I remember seeing a stat one season that showed like the last 50 games that Gerrard had played in, and then the last 50 games, if you added them up, where Gerrard didn't start. It was 50. The last 50 games Gerrard started, and then adding up the total of the last 50 games where Gerrard didn't start a game. So you're actually spreading that 50 that he didn't start across maybe 4 seasons. And it was the win percentage when he didn't start was at like 62%. And the win ratio when he played was like 48%. And they're like, wow, they're better without him. And it's like, yeah, but you're looking at probably 12 or 13 of those are League Cup ties against League One, League Two teams. There's probably 4 or 5 FA Cup ties in that. There's probably 2 or 3 dead rubbers in the Champions League. And even in the Prem, it's like how many of those games were the big ones against the only time it would make sense is if you could show like 50 games of him playing against the big 6 and 50 games of him missing against the big 6, and then what the differential was. So sometimes those statistics can be really misleading. I look, has Robertson been at his scintillating best this year? No, I don't necessarily think he's been that bad when I look at Liverpool. I think there have been other players in their defense that have let you down more. There's been issues with the midfield that have let them down more. I kind of feel like Robertson is almost being used as a little bit of a sacrificial lamb to deflect attention away from other players that might not be doing so well. It's if we throw all our attention towards Robertson, nobody will focus on what the real problems maybe are.
I think he's also. I saw that was a little Trent jab there. That I've seen. Look at that little smile. But
no, it's not a Trent jab. It's the truth.
No, I'm winding you up. I'm winding you up. But my point was like I think he's also being judged by his standards. Like I don't think he's been bad. But by Robertson's standards, admittedly, he's not been where he should be. So he's almost a victim of his own success. But like I've always said this, yes, a player might be in amazing form, but you still want your best players to play in games. And if I still had the option to this day of having Mohamed Salah or Lionel Messi playing in a game, I would still play Lionel Messi because he's the better player. Like I wouldn't play Salah because he is on significantly better form. I would just play the best player. And for me right now, that like the best player, the better player is Robertson. But I do understand the point that it's got, and you know what? It's a good issue to have where we're having these dialogues because how many times in Liverpool has it been the starting 11 and then the rest is just fodder? Whereas now we are able to have in certain positions a debate, which is important.
No, I agree completely. AMT here says last season how bad Liverpool were according to their fans. Arsenal even worse. Tavares versus Salah will be very interesting. Yeah, I agree. It will be as well. And
is he going to play?
Yeah.
Really?
Tavares seems to be like the number one choice at the left back, wing back, fullback position right now.
Tierney was injured. Like I assumed they were just not rushing him back.
Tavares' performances have been so good on that left flank. He's been an attacking threat, and defensively he hasn't put a foot wrong. So I don't think there's any reason to change a winning side where Tavares has been a big part of those games. And I think especially against Aston Villa, he absolutely was putting the balls on the plate for our players. So I'm keeping him. I think he's done well. Tierney needs to fight for his place, and that's how it should be. He should be picked on merit.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think to a degree, like the merit picking is, I get it to a degree. But there also comes a time. It depends. If the player that's in on merit is also really good, then you do it. If you've got a player that's had 2 or 3 good games, but they're subs. I'll give you an example. If El Neni comes in and has 2 brilliant games, you also know at some point that luck's going to run out because he isn't of the standard to say of a Thomas Partey. So there comes a point where you're like, yeah, you've been great, but we need to bring the better player in. So I think you've got to get that balance right. Tavares, I think, has the ability to be better than Tierney. And I said that before you signed him. He was a player that I'd seen before, read a lot about him. He was one of the Arsenal signings this summer that I was really kind of not jealous of, but thought, wow, a bit like Lokonga, massively like Ben White. Some talent there in that Arsenal team. And I'm really looking forward to this game at the weekend, especially if Man United win. Now, on Man United, boys, I want to ask you this question. We are going to talk Harry Kane a bit later. And viewers, if you've got any questions you want to pose to me or the panel, anything you want us to talk about today, get your super chats in and get those questions asked of us. But I wanted to ask you boys this question. Do you think this weekend we could see Man United players down tool? And when I say that, it's very difficult at times to know whether you've down tooled against a Liverpool or a City, because those teams are so good anyway that they were likely to beat Manchester United. Do you think United will turn up against Watford, or do you actually think there's a chance that Watford could get something out of this game, another negative performance and result for Man United?
You go first, bro.
I don't believe at this level there's a thing as downing tools. I don't think anyone, consciously anyway, will be like, I'm not going to try for this manager. I don't think that's a thing that happens. I might be wrong, and it might be individuals, but definitely not as a team. And I think the players they won't be picked. If there's any suspicion that they will, they won't be picked. It's not the kind of players you want. And Man United as players don't want to lose. Yes, they might not want Ollie in the job, but they want to win. There are physical incentives for them to win, as in financially. They want to win as much as possible. So I don't see them downing tools. Watford are a good team, kind of not really. I think that you can beat them easily. I don't think that you can. You should struggle. I think it will be a comfortable win for you guys. Should be a comfortable win for you guys. I kind of expect Ollie to, and I know a lot's been made of this whole holiday situation. It's very common. Every Liverpool were on holiday. All their players were on holiday last week. It happens. So I think you'll be prepared. You'll be ready. I think you should quite comfortably beat Watford. And if not, I would be very, very surprised. And again, sort of like what you were saying, this isn't this would be more embarrassing than a loss to Liverpool, than a loss to City. I think if this gets bad, I think you've got to sack him.
Let me jump in here. Terry, realistically, you put out an 11 against Watford, and you look at their 11, I don't think any of them are worth even one of your players. So I honestly, I think just based on talent alone, you guys are going to wipe the floor with them. On your form, I get why Manchester United fans are cautious of every game, but guys, you don't need to be cautious about every single game. Let's be realistic here. You guys are just going to wipe the floor with them. And if you do lose, there's big questions to be asked about the mentality of the players at that point. 100%.
Yeah, look, I get that. And am I fearful of Watford as a team? No. In fairness, I've said to you before, there's only a handful of teams we play where before the game, I'm really scared of them. I am fearful of Man United, though. I'm fearful of how we are. And some of the reports that have come out in the last few days, again, from credible outlets, the Telegraph reporting so many of the United players are angry with Ollie, not only because he isn't playing enough of them regularly enough, but he told them and promised them in the summer when they had one of those kind of open floor feedback sessions that the likes of Telles and Van der Beek and a few others were like, we're annoyed we're not being used as much. And they were promised they'd get more game time this year. And that still hasn't started to happen and pay fruit, as it were, and sort of be fruitful for them and pay dividends. Sorry. I do worry. Certain sort of senior players look frustrated. They look annoyed. I'm just genuinely concerned about the way we're going to perform. We might still win, but I just want to see the way they're spinning it to us as fans is they're giving Ollie a chance to turn it around. So what you want to see is a response. If there isn't a response, that's my fear, that it's a wasted 2-week period again where we've just allowed this stuff to continue. If you do see the players giving their all and putting in a performance, at least there's an element of, at least they're trying still. I'm just fearful that won't continue. But viewers, I'd love to get your view and opinion. How will Man United get on this weekend? Will tools be downed? Will they bounce back? What do you think? I really want to know. Gunner Elite here with the super chat says, is the secret football phrase trust the process? It isn't trust the process, but thank you for that guess. Will Flex says Liverpool only have 3 midfielders and just 1 came back, is what Will Felix has got to say. Of course, leading up to the conversation we had earlier from the football side of things in relation to that as well. Dave is joining us in a few moments to have his say on these matters as well. A lot of people here, Leicester 3, Chelsea 0. None of you see Chelsea losing this weekend to Leicester, do you?
I didn't see them drawing to Burnley. Listen, this is the Premier League. Anything can happen. Anything. I don't think they will. I think Chelsea will win quite comfortably. But you never write anything off. Stranger things have happened.
Leicester's not the same team. Leicester's not the same team of the past 2 years. I honestly do think Brendan.
I thought they were a hard. I thought they were a hard team when you were running down Arsenal's fixtures earlier.
No. I don't think they are, because clearly everyone's saying what teams have you played, and when I name Leicester, they're like, oh, okay. So I'm just gonna keep the same energy. I'm gonna be honest. When we played them, they didn't play that well over the past couple games. They didn't play so well. I had them tipped to be fighting for top 4 this season. It looks like they're struggling. They might struggle to get into Europe this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, Chelsea had a blip. Chelsea had an absolute blip against Burnley. There's going to be they're going to have no issues as far as I'm concerned in relation to that game. I don't think they are.
I just hope Reece James drops a disaster class, because it's coming. It is coming.
What do you mean it's coming?
Why? It's coming. It's coming.
You see
that? Explain that. Hang on. Sorry.
That's worry.
Explain that. Why is it coming? Why is a disaster class coming?
Because there are just levels. There are levels to this, and he's enjoying his little purple patch. He's having some fun. He's scoring some goals. He's getting included in conversations that he has no right to be in, and it's fun. Like, he's enjoying himself. It's really cool, and like, it's nice to see a young kid like kind of involved in those conversations and put on that level. But the cream always rises, and the cream will rise, and we will see who the best English right back is, because there's not a debate.
I mean, Southgate agrees with Chelsea fans, so But his B team yesterday.
Southgate also didn't play Grealish or Sancho also didn't play, and he got 3 assists.
It's San Marino. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care. Like, it's San Marino.
We can't. I didn't even watch San Marino. San Marino, I'm told is the pinnacle of football.
I could play with San Marino. I'm a decent footballer. I can play with San Marino. Get me on that right back. Can't be much worse.
In all seriousness about the Reece James chat, I think he's incredible. I think he's a top tier right back. Like they are. I think both have got different qualities. I think both are truly exceptional, and it's like England's benefit that they've got. For me, it is those two. Two of the best right backs.
Oh, you're gonna forget Cancelo.
Well, obviously Cancelo. But Cancelo isn't playing right back.
I know, but like, that's his main position. I think if you're gonna talk about Trent and Reece James, you have to put Cancelo in that conversation. And I would say, and just
I was also talking about England, in fairness.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were talking just about England. I'm talking about Premier League.
I'm talking about on form right now. Reece James is the best fullback in the Prem. He is. I'm sorry.
I completely disagree.
It goes Trent, Cancelo, then it goes Reece.
Okay. Oh, he said it.
So guys, let me just interject for a minute, right? I need to get all 3 of you right now to get your backsides off of the fence. This whole on form as of right now, great. We get that. Like, there's form. Right? He's getting his shirt out there. A grown man with another person's name on the back of their shirt. Oh wow. I mean, joke.
I think I love it. No, I think I love it.
Let me ask this question properly. Reece James or Trent? Who is better and why? Like, forget form. Who is the better player and who will prove to be the better player over the next, say, 5 years? I'll go to David first on that. Who is better and who will prove to be better over the next 5 years?
Well, I think it's Reece James. I think Reece James is better, and the reason is because he is a right back. So your main job. I don't care what anybody tells me. Your main job is defend, all right? And Reece James is by far a better defender than Trent. Trent's attacking wise, I 100% agree with Liverpool fans. Trent is probably the best attacking fullback you could argue in the world, potentially, right? But when you talk about the difference between Trent's defending and Reece's defending, and then you flip it with the attacking, I think the gap between the defending is far greater than the gap between the attacking. Because I think Reece James is already a fantastic attacking fullback anyway. Same number of goal contributions as Bruno this season, and he's got 7, which is for a fullback already halfway through a season. That's pretty outrageous. So the gap's not that big when it comes to attacking, and then the defending. I'm sorry, it's not even close. It's not even close.
It's easy to say that when you are playing with the back 3 behind you,
but it's not true. It's not
Hang
true.
on, hang on.
Norwich played a back
Tuchel-
three, conceded 7. Arsenal played a back 3, conceded 3. Leicester played a Leicester played a back 3, conceded 3. It's not as simple as just playing 3 at the back and your team defensively.
No. I agree, but I'm saying he's not the last line of defense, right? So, like, if he slips up and something happens, someone gets down his side, you've got Azpilicueta behind him. With Trent, you don't. So I think it is, the way I look at it is, if I was Chelsea manager, and maybe this is a bit of bias coming through, I think I would pick Trent to play in that right wing back slot. Right. I mean, Tuchel himself has said he doesn't count them as defenders. He counts them as right midfielders and like left midfielders, I think he said. I think if I had the option, who would I play? I would play Trent personally. Would I in my opinion, for both. I think that for England, the best thing to do would, to be honest, to play Reece James as right centre back and England as and Trent as right wing back. I think that is where you'll get the most success. But for me right now, not even right now. For me, Trent is the ability he has on the ball. I genuinely, from a fullback, haven't seen in my lifetime. Like from a fullback, and I was slightly before, I was slightly too young to appreciate your Dani Alves's and your Cafu's, and your Roberto Carlos's. But since then, I think Trent has the best ability on the ball. I think he's exceptional going forward. I think he is nowhere near as bad defensively as people say he is. I think that for me, I would put Trent into that Chelsea team, and I think Tuchel would do the same.
Yeah, it's very simple for me. At the end of the day, football is won by individual moments of brilliance by individual players at times. And and when it comes to small margins, if you need somebody on the pitch to win you a game, you can trust Trent Alexander-Arnold to deliver week in, week out. He's done it for 4 to 5 years now, right? And what he's doing from that right back position in the Premier League era has not been seen before. Before we put Reece James in that category, I need to see more from him and more consistently. What is it? This is his second year in the Chelsea team full time. Let's see what he can do, because he's never gotten nowhere near Trent's numbers statistically. And if he can push and get into that Premier League team of the year over Trent, then we can maybe talk. But until he shows consistency over the season, statistically getting involved and continues at this level, maybe then we can continue. But right now, Trent is still above him. I'm sorry.
Again, right back. I know his stats look good going forward. Your job is to defend. Your job is to defend. And Trent is. Do you know the thing is, Trent's defensive stats don't even look bad, because half the time he's not even there to defend, because he's halfway up the field and he's just not worrying about what the attackers are doing.
Okay, but guess what? If you were comparing two players, right, and you're comparing a player who has been on a world-class team and had one of the best defenses in the Premier League to a guy who has what, 2 full years in the league, and he hasn't actually been doing it as long as him, and he hasn't been at that level as long as him, you have to compare their body of works once the guy keeps up his consistency for a longer period.
So I get your point. My question would be then, so what do you specifically want to see from Reece James? What would he have to do to change your mind?
Stay on this trajectory until the end of the season and show that you can do this for a longer time period, because Trent has been doing it for over 4 years now at this world-class level. Reece James needs to do it at that level, or even supersede it before he can be put in the same conversation.
I will say, people, like, football is looked at very black and white, and it's not. Like, Trent and Reece James actually probably play the same position. Like, in theory, in terms of, if you looked at their...
What do you mean? They do play the same position. They're both right backs.
No, but Chelsea don't play with right backs.
What do they play with then?
Right wing backs. Like, they play with, like, midfielders.
I have to be honest. I have to be honest with you. I'm not having a pop. For me, like, potato. Like,
no, it's a big difference.
I think people make too much of it in football, and I'm not having a pop at either. I think both are amazing, by the way. I'll pull it. I think they've both got weaknesses because they're young, and all young players do. I think they're both amazing. I think sometimes we get too sort of. I'll give you an example. Liverpool don't use that. You play with a flat back four. But what we know that happens when your fullbacks push forward is somebody from your midfield covers into their position. So in terms of the numbers of, therefore you've got 2 centre backs back and a midfielder back when a fullback goes forward.
No,
that isn't any. Again, everybody likes to like twist the little nuances. That's no different to having 3 at the back.
No, that was my point. I said people look at football and say Liverpool play a back four, Chelsea play a back five. But in theory, if you look at like heat maps, you probably will see Reece James and Trent occupying very similar positions.
You're spot on there. That's my point. I don't tend to look at the starting position that Sky Sports or BT put up. I look at the heat maps. Look Lahm used to do at Bayern Munich under Pep. Look at the fullbacks Pep now. They spend a lot of their time in central midfield because that's where Pep has it. But no one calls them midfielders. They're still right backs or right wing backs. For me, they take up
midfielders.
No,
like,
I mean
the way they play, they're midfielders.
So if you have a player you wouldn't call Fabinho a defender if he spends a lot of time in between the two centre backs. It's just your role as a midfielder is to protect that area and shield them. What I mean by that is it's not having a dig at either, and people will take it as a dig because people are weird. You're right. It's more about what areas of the pitch are you told to occupy when attacking, and what areas of the pitch are you told to defend when your team's out of possession. Fans need to suddenly watch Liverpool and City that are considered attacking teams. Their team shape and how deep they drop when they lose the ball and they're being attacked at times. Very compact, very mid to low block at times. But it's what you then do when you win possession. They spring back and they push forward. They're not a park the bus team that sit back even when they're attacking, if that makes sense. So I look at both of them as being very, very talented. And like Reece James, for me, I think he has the potential to be one of the best in the world because what I see from him defensively appears to be better in the sense of when he's played as that right centre-back role, he's done a very good job. I'm not too sure if Trent can do that. However, in the defense for Trent, Jurgen Klopp doesn't want him to do a lot of those things. Jurgen Klopp wants him rolling down that wing and pushing forward is what a lot of people tell me. But viewers, I want your view. I want your... Yeah, go on, mate. Go on.
Let's stop comparing Reece James to Trent, in my opinion, because Trent, in my opinion, is the best right back in Premier League history. Based on his output. Listen. Based on his output from that position, what he's done, no other right back has been able to do that. And
in terms of ability, he's by far the best.
What he's done, and listen, you can laugh as much as you want, but when Trent Alexander-Arnold was still putting in performances and absolutely dominating games, Reece James was still at Wigan. How are we comparing a guy who just had 2 full seasons, now his third, to a guy who's been performing at a world-class level for 4 years? Come on, guys. Let's stop it.
So, hang on. You guys laughed at that. It's like,
no, I didn't laugh.
No, I'm laughing. I'm laughing. He's not bad.
Who's he not better?
Hold on. A gal's talking about body of work. How can Trent, who's only done it for 4 years, be better than Gary Neville, who did it for 15?
Okay,
10,
first
years?
of all, Trent,
how can he be better than Aspi, who's been doing it in the league for 10 years, playing multiple positions, not only right back, he's played across everywhere. How can he be better than these guys? Okay. Those are just Those are two simple examples. So how? Explain. He's only got 1 title as well. Remember that.
Hang on. I don't think. I would like to say, in my opinion on the matter, is ability-wise, he's the best right back the Premier League's seen. In terms of what he could do, like if I was building an all-time Premier League 11 for one game, as in players from any generation, and it was for one game, who would I put in? I would put Trent as my right back without question. I think he's the best on the ball, and if you're going to play that way, but like body of work-wise, I think what he's done in a short space of time is impressive. Admittedly, not done it as long as Azpilicueta, Zabaleta, even some other names like Ivanovic, but I think he will. By the time he wraps up his career, he will be the best right back in terms of body of work. And right now, in terms of ability, I think he's the best right back the Premier League's ever seen.
The ability thing is such an interesting argument for me. Obviously, I caused a stir on Twitter last night. I didn't even mean to by stating that since 1966 and that crop of centre-backs, Harry Maguire has been our most successful. And he has, because if you look at the fact over a 5-year period, our 2 qualification campaigns have been most goals scored, best defensive record we've had, best back-to-back tournament record we've ever had. Even when we won, if you look at winning the World Cup in '66 and look at the tournaments before and after it, we didn't do as well. We got to our 2nd ever final in the history of our nation, best defensive record at Euros, and he's become the all-time leading goal scorer for England. My point being, he isn't the best on ability that we've had. There's been, like, just off the top of my head, Ledley King, Sol Campbell, Jamie Carragher, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, and ample others. Tony Adams and a few other. All these guys are better in terms of ability than Maguire. I measure best in the league. I'll always measure it on their success over their ability. When it comes to two people with very close success, then I go to ability as an example. Because if Trent doesn't win any more Premier Leagues from here, but maintains these outputs, but then Reece James goes on to win 5 more Prems, then I would never be able to put Trent ahead of him based on my kind of logic. So I do get where you're coming from. But you've got to be careful with that logic as well, though. Because all that now means, based on what you've said, is Bruno Fernandes needs 1 Premier League title and he can be called the greatest ever midfielder in the Premier League because no one's ever had the numbers that he's had in over a 3 to 4 year period. Okay, and nobody would agree with that. So I think with Trent, I think Trent is on the course to becoming the greatest. I think on ability-wise, I agree with you. But the one thing he doesn't have yet, and it's the most key component in this, longevity.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think what's going to be really key for him to be considered the best.
But Reece doesn't have longevity.
But I haven't said that Reece James. I haven't said Reece James is the best right back in Premier League history. I'm talking about that claim. Let me just finish my point. Longevity is massive here, and I'm also really intrigued to see what he does when Jurgen Klopp leaves as well. The best fullback in the league will maintain being as good as he is, as long as they get another a top-class manager coming in. So, look, I think he's amazing. I think claims of him being the greatest ever after 3.5 seasons, 4 seasons, I think it's too early myself to say he's the greatest ever overall for a whole body of work. I think that's too much to be fair.
No, I 100%. I do appreciate that. And I think on your Bruno point, why it is different is, to be honest with right backs, not really been blessed. Like, you can kind of count on your hands who would be in that position. Whereas in Bruno's position, for example, you could have so many names in there. You think your David Silvas, your Ozils, your Ericssons, even in terms of ability.
I understand that, but the point I'm making is if the big reason that Gal gave was he's done things numbers wise nobody else has come close to. That for me, it's a tick box in terms of one of the things you put together to say greatest ever. But I think we need to be really mindful of that in a 3 or 4 year period not being enough to forget Gary Neville. Like you mentioned, the Aspie. I look at Zabaleta at Manchester City as an example, who's got a massive claim to that, in my opinion, that I don't think should just be overlooked and disregarded straight away. But Ivanovic at Chelsea, I think, is another name. Now, technically not as good, but defenders were very different back then as well. But I think Trent's on the way. Like I've said before about Mo Salah, I think he's on the way to being looked at and maybe. I mean, you've even got another guy at Arsenal.
Salah's on the way.
Salah's on the way to being one of the greatest, in a GOAT conversation, like I've said. But I wouldn't put him in the GOAT conversation yet because he needs more of a body of work. He needs more than 1 Premier League title. He needs to start matching what Aguero's and Shearer's and Henry's have done in numbers, and he's on the way to doing that. His trajectory's there. But the reason you can't say he's there now is if at the end of this season Mo Salah falls off the edge of a cliff and he scores on average 10 goals a season for the next 4 or 5 years, doesn't win another Player of the Year award, doesn't win a Golden Boot, doesn't win a Prem, he won't be in those conversations. In my view.
And he's won no domestic trophies as well.
Let me just say this quickly.
Hazard's in those conversations.
He ain't.
Hazard. People
Chelsea fans put him in it.
People always try to put Hazard in the left wing position for Premier League 11s. I'm telling you right now, name a right wing player who would take Salah out of his spot.
No one.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
No, I will die on this hill. In the Premier League, Mohamed Salah has been better for Liverpool than Cristiano Ronaldo has been for Man United.
No. Cristiano Ronaldo definitely he has
in the Premier League, Salah has been better for Liverpool than Ronaldo has been for Man United.
I'll stop right there.
So again, when you look at everything that goes into those conversations, it's cool. For me, he was one of the driving forces in Man United doing a 3-peat of Premier Leagues and doing a Champions League, Premier League double. He broke record goal scoring in that era when he was playing as right wing, not inside forward. That role didn't even exist. And you guys talk, it did. He created it. Cristiano Ronaldo created the inside forward role in the
Salah did it better.
Yeah, but you're listening to my point. A lot of you guys have just sat there and said one of your reasons for putting Trent as the greatest is because he's innovated and changed the mindset of a role. At the end of the day, the Wright brothers didn't make the best aeroplanes ever known to man, but they invented them. They get credit for that, for inventing them in the first place. I think, again, maybe you think, look, I'm not even going to debate it. Viewers, Mo Salah or Cristiano Ronaldo, who has the best Premier League legacy as it stands. But GOAT conversation wasn't about who played on the right either. I was talking about his overall, Thierry Henry. Because if he's better than Cristiano Ronaldo, then you should be putting him on Thierry Henry's level very soon as well in a few more seasons.
Oh no, no one's anywhere near Thierry Henry.
That's nonsense.
And it's not nonsense.
That's not
Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry is by far the best player in the Premier League.
So he's already
levels.
So Cristiano Ronaldo was the only Premier League player to win a Ballon d'Or. He won 3 Premier Leagues on the bounce, a Champions League, Premier League double seat. What?
Michael Owen.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Okay, only Premier League player to win a Ballon d'Or in a season where he won a Champions League and a Premier League. He broke goal scoring records.
And he touched 3 millimeters of grass instead of 2 millimeters of grass. Come on, stop.
Hang on. So you're telling me winning a Ballon d'Or is just by itself is not as good as winning a Ballon d'Or and winning actual trophies at the same time?
Of course it is.
Then why are you arguing?
No, but you're
arguing with something you don't even agree with.
No. But like you, for example, said, "Oh, he's the only player to win the Ballon d'Or," and I was like, "No, he's not." And then you're like, "Oh yeah, let me add some more."
Okay. But we kind of knew what I was talking about in sense of his performances in a season that have led to Manchester United winning major trophies, led to a Ballon d'Or. You kind of both just sat there like unequivocally and gone, "Yeah, Mo Salah's in front of Ronaldo." What about players touching Messi, Henry? No one gets anywhere near Henry. I don't understand that. That's mad.
I never said Salah was ahead of Ronaldo. I just said on that right wing. I didn't consider Ronaldo as a right winger solely. He's played in numerous positions in his career. Let's be honest. You could play him as a striker. You could play him as a. I know he didn't play only as a striker. He played as a second striker at Manchester United at times. I don't remember him playing on the left at Manchester United, but you could also say he's played left on his career. So there's many places where you could fit Cristiano Ronaldo. You could fit both of them in your 11.
What we end up doing though, guys, we've kind of gone off topic a little bit here. My point is you have to wait for someone. I think when someone's so young, you have to wait for them to finish their body of work. Like I've said about Mo Salah, I think he's on the way to the GOAT conversation. I don't think he's there yet because I still think there's a lot of players that have achieved more in terms of winning more trophies as well. You have to have those major trophies, those Premier Leagues, those Champions Leagues, and then you start going into the sort of the nitty gritty around it. And I think on Trent, he set himself up with his baseline right now to become one of the greatest right backs in the Prem, one of the greatest in Europe. He has to grow from that. Look at Haaland. Haaland's goal scoring record for his age at the elite end of European football is the best at his age ever. You can't call him the best striker ever yet. He's got so much. That's my point. You can't do it yet. It's what you go on to do.
Again, I agree with that, but you have to I'm doing it considering the right backs that we've had. Like right back is not exactly like you've got players and you listed them, but I could think of maybe 5 that are like elite Premier League right backs. Whereas with strikers, there are 30.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter though, does it? That doesn't matter though, does it? Because Haaland has still outperformed every other European-based striker at this age of his career that's ever lived. So that's an even bigger achievement. No, I'm not trying to change the argument. It's the exact same point. If you're at a player right now, if you've got 5 players that you've got to be better than to be the greatest ever, that's a much easier achievement than being better than 150 people.
But this is my premise, Terry. We are comparing a guy who's had 2 full seasons at Chelsea to a guy who arguably could be put into a category where he's one of the best right backs in the Premier League based on his outputs. So if we're going to compare Reece James, let him have a bigger body of work.
No, but again, we're not going off topic here. The first conversation was Reece James or Trent, and that's cool. Your claim was that Trent is the greatest right back ever based on what he's done in the first 3.5 to 4 years of his career. So when I'm talking about Haaland, that isn't going off topic at all. I'm simply stating, and I know 90% of Liverpool fans are not annoyed about what I'm about to say because Louis backed it as well. I think he's on the way to being that, but he has to continue in this trajectory for at least another 4 to 5 years, win more trophies. And then, will he maintain this level of output? Most likely, because his crossing ability is absolutely out of this world. I just think it's too soon to call any player that's, say, under the age of 23, the greatest ever in their position in a league like the Prem, the Liga, Serie A, until they've got a greater body of work. And because longevity is a massive key component within this. It's like saying, a player can have a 3-year period where they outscore in each of those seasons Thierry Henry, and suddenly that makes him better than Thierry Henry. Nobody would agree to that. So I don't think we should do it to other positions either.
Mbappe has a capability to easily surpass Thierry Henry based on what he's already achieved. If he continues at this level, there's certain players who
Yes.
at a young age.
That wasn't your argument though. Your argument is that Mbappe is already better than Thierry Henry, which would be wrong.
Okay, that would be wrong.
What?
But listen, I didn't say that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Trent. Look, first things first, I need to acknowledge this. Reece James is a good player. I'm not saying he's not a bad player. He's a really good player. He's a good right back. He's doing amazing things at Chelsea right now. No one's taking away from him at all. I want to make that evidently clear. But Trent Alexander-Arnold currently has been on a higher level than him. And in order for him to reach that, he needs to at least be able to mimic or compare a season to what Trent has been doing. Period.
And I think that's a fair argument. We've gone off on a different tangent because you made a claim that Trent was the greatest ever in the Premier League, and I just think that's a little too soon. Let's do some super chats here. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Is that the secret phrase? It's not, but thank you for the guess, my friend. If we hit that 400 like mark, people, on this show, I'll give you another clue so you can win that PS5 or that pair of football boots. Josh here says United win. Players won't down tools because Mr. CR7, Ollie needs to rotate players out of form and take some risks. Losing hope on Man United. Hope the decision-making gets on the personal front. I'm likely to join London Business School soon. Love from India. Well, congratulations on that news, my friend. And thank you for that super chat. I've got a few more to do here. I will get to them all. Will says, even Alonso looks good with the back three, whereas Reece hype with Lampard. And Trent is in big games is top, is what Will's got to say. I'm scrolling to find these other ones. We've got a few more to do here. Sorry.
In fairness, Reece James in the Champions League final was exceptional. So.
It was very good. So from Cancelo to Trent, Igao is changing his tune. Is what Arjun has got to say here.
What? When did I say Cancelo was better than Trent?
What Trent did against Barca, that presence of mind and that quality has not been seen at fullback position ever. It's not a mad shout, in my opinion. The corner being taken early.
Yeah, just the balls on the kid to attempt that, to even think about it. It's things like that when this guy, like the word generational talent is thrown about too much, but Trent is a generational talent, and I don't think Reece James is.
Aspi, Zabaleta, Ivanovic, Neril, Laurent, Gal, please stop talking. Are you Sunny? Part 2. Let's read these out. I'm just challenging your opinion. That's all they're doing. I get it every day for my own subscribers. Grey Wolf Dinner here says Kyle Walker is so disrespected. He, for me, is the best right back in Premier League history. He's boring. Yes, he's boring to watch. He's Pep's go-to guy and has got longevity. I think Kyle Walker's always ignored out of that conversation. I've got an issue with Kyle Walker. I think he always had a mistake in him. Haaland's legacy will start from the day he joins City. Best Premier League player. Everyone will have their preference. For me, it is Thierry. Mo, clear of Cristiano Ronaldo in the Premier League, is what's been said there. We had another super chat come through. Pav says, is the phrase Woolwich, I'm not going to read that out. Woolwich bankers. It isn't. That isn't the secret phrase, but thank you for having a guess, my friend. We're joined now by another Gooner. We've got another Gooner coming on the show here. Man like Femi. Femi from Maryland is coming on the show. That's Maryland, USA, not Maryland in East London. There is a Maryland in East London, but it's a very little part of East London in between Stratford and Leytonstone. Femi's here with us now. How's it going, bro?
I'm good. I actually just learned a fun fact today. I had no idea there was a Maryland in the UK, so that's cool to hear.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good to have you on the show, buddy. We're obviously talking about a number of different bits and pieces. I want to get your opinion straight away. Trent or Reece James? Trent or Reece James? Who are you picking?
Depends on the formation and what I want to do, I guess. I feel like Trent is just what he offers in the attack is just kind of like, if I want to be one of those gun-ho teams, then I see him as one of those guys. It's like, hey, if we have cover in the back, him all day. But if it's one of those competitive, we don't know how the game's going to go, I think Reece James just give you a bit more comfort knowing that, like, okay, worst case scenario, if we need him to track back a little more, like, I know that he has it in his wheel belt to be able to make sure he's not getting pushed over. But at the same time, you're not losing too much in the attacking as well. So I don't know. It just depends on the setup. But if it's to come to Arsenal, Reece James, I would have to take Reece James, just more so the compactness and be able to just have a right back that can not only attack, do the things we need you to do in the attack, but be able to, I guess, come back at the same time, be able to stay compact in case we need the other winger to come up. So depends. Really just depends.
Yeah. Do you know what I find really intriguing about the whole argument is I totally get that right now in football, creativity from your fullbacks is huge. But football has this habit of going through cycles where certain positions and roles are important. In 3 or 4 years' time, the way managers setting their teams up, it may change that fact, and suddenly the creativity has to come from somewhere else. Go back 6-7 years ago. Go back about 6-7 years, and then back for about a 10-year period before that. Number 10s. You know, when the David Silvas and the Matters and the like were in their pomp, the Ozils, the number 10 was that chief creator, and football again evolved from there. What I'm really intrigued to see, because they're so young, they're very likely to be involved in the next kind of transition. There was a time in Premier League teams where your wingers, your Ryan Giggses and your David Beckhams, your Perez's, your Steve McManamans, they were your creative source. Your central midfielders back then were not looked at as creative. They were there to like retain possession and then kind of quarterback the ball around and win the ball back. And then it changed. So I'm really intrigued to see which of the two adapts if and when there's another kind of seismic switch in what position on the field becomes the chief creator, if that makes sense. I'm very intrigued to see. And I think that's when you maybe get your answer of overall who the best. That's one of the reasons why I always vote the likes of Ryan Giggs as one of the greatest ever to play football in Europe, because of his ability to be able to adapt his position through the eras as football kind of changed. That shows great technical ability for a player to be able to go from being a winger to a central midfield player. One of the things about Ronaldo I love, Messi's got this as well, is that he's operated at world-class level in every position in the attack. Left, right, centrally, poacher. He's been able to adapt. That shows you how good a footballer he is. You need some of them footballers, great wingers, and then they lose a bit of pace, and then they're suddenly playing in League Two. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to pan out. It's going to be interesting to see.
I think it's interesting. That's really interesting to hear, only because it's like, I think what we're starting to see is managers, they're emphasizing being able to just have multiple threats. You don't know exactly what's going to happen, because if you look at the way, I guess you'd see the way City plays, or some of just the bigger teams in general, a lot of times, a lot of these players can kind of be mismatched depending on who they're playing. And I feel like you're starting to see kind of the specialists kind of be moved a little away from the game. Like you see the Ozils of the world, as great as he is, they start asking him to start doing more things. All of a sudden, it's like all of a sudden he's a bad player, when in reality he's not really a bad player. He just isn't fit to do multiple things. So I think it's less about the skill, the specific skill you have, and it's more so it's like, okay, you are good at this, but are you able to adapt if circumstances change within a game? Okay,
I was going to say, I disagree with that. Like, I saw a thing online. It was amongst Liverpool fans. And it was like, if we were to, for example, I don't know, have to sell Trent, how much would he go for? And someone was like, upwards of 100 million for me.
I feel that.
For Trent. And someone said, no, I think more around the 50 mark, because like he's a right back and you don't pay more than like that amount for a right back. And my point was, yes, but if you're signing someone like Trent, you're signing him to be your chief creator. You're like, for example, if Arsenal come into a load of money and are in the market for a right back, but they sort of play with that right sort of back tucking in to make almost a back three and the left back bombing on, you're not going to buy Trent because he's not the specialist you want. So I think I don't see an issue with the player being a specialist in one area, one thing. I think it is part of the manager's job to get the best out of the players you've got. And for me, any manager worth his salt will be able to get the best out of Trent in any way that the game develops. Same with Reece James. I mean, Reece James, to a better degree, can obviously play holding midfield, and I think he will be fine. But I think when you've got an ability like Trent, there will always be a place for you in the game, in however it develops.
Yeah, I agree with you to a large extent, and that was my whole point. And again, people always take those kind of points as, oh, you're being salty. I'm not. Football evolves. every 4 to 5 years, there's go back 15 years ago, maybe a bit less than that now. Tiki-taka was going to be here forever. You'd never be able to beat a team that plays tiki-taka football. But after that period, then suddenly the power and speed of the Bayern Munich, they had a period where they were just untouchable. A few years later, Real Madrid stuck 7 past them because it evolved again, and then positions come and go. And that's when you know the point about saying who the best in the Prem is. These things are what have to become. Again, you can throw in a utility player like a James Milner that's played a number of positions well and go, oh well, he was good in 3 or 4 positions. He's the GOAT, and that's like saying Luke Chadwick's better than Gerrard because he's got a Premier League winners medal. It's a nonsense argument. But that's when I think when it comes down to the fine margin between who the very best players are. One thing Thierry Henry has over a lot of the other strikers that get thrown against him is Henry played a variety of positions. The others were like number 9's brilliant at it, but you couldn't ask them to drift out left, drift out right, drop deep, be playmakers at the same time as being goal scorers. It's why I'd pick Henry over Alan Shearer every day of the week. You know, if for instance, if football changes, has a bit of an evolution, and Trent needs to be more compact and defensive, and the new manager at the time asks him to do that, and he just for 4 or 5 years is a powerhouse defensively, you've got an even bigger claim for him being the greatest, because he did it when he had to be the offensive attacker. He did it when he had to be the defensive powerhouse. Who can stake claim to that? If he has to be defensive powerhouse with football changes and he looks awful, trust me, no one will vote him as the best ever. And that's what I mean by when you do it too early, you don't know yet. He's got the grounding, he's got the foundation to do it. Like all the youngsters that are around now. You know, people keep talking Phil Foden could be as good as Messi and stuff. I keep hearing things, or like of that ilk. He could also completely go in the other opposite direction. We don't know right now. It's crazy to see, you know, it's crazy to see. But we've got some super chats to do here. Is the phrase she wore a yellow ribbon? That isn't the secret phrase. We're closing in on 400 likes, people. Once they get here, I'll give you another clue. A defender who can't defend is absolute rubbish, is what SS has got to say. Reece James can play in any system, but Trent can't. David, do you think that's true?
Yeah, I do. I don't really see a system that he couldn't perform in. And I think the hardest one he'd have to adjust to doing is Trent's one. But for me, like as a fullback, I think he's pretty much he is a complete fullback. He just needs age. That's all he's missing, just age and experience. That's it.
But do you think he'll ever have the ability that Trent has on the ball?
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's like the gap is that massive. No, I don't think he ever will. I don't think the gap is as big as you're making it out to be. I think there is a gap. Don't trust me. I understand. Like me, I play right back myself. Trent's balls are genuinely ridiculous. I don't know how he does it, like so consistently as well. But I don't think the gap is that massive. I think Reece James is fantastic. But I just think
I agree. I agree. He's fantastic. I think that the gap is. I don't think it's massive, but I think the gap is big. I think that
it's like if
it's not massive, but it's big.
It's big.
It's really big.
It's like Trent's like in the top 1 percentile, and then I'd put Reece James in like the 3 or 2, like 2%, 3%. I don't think it's that massive. So,
but I think Trent. I agree with you, but I still think Trent, like in that 1%, is like so clear, like so clear.
I don't think it's hard. Like if Trent is a 10. Reece is like an 8 or a 7. So there's a gap, but it's not like 10.
But I don't think Trent's a 10. I think Trent's like a 15 if we're judging it like, on the ball.
Him a 15.
So like, let's do it on a scale of, before we move on to Harry Kane, on a scale of 1 to 10, if Trent, I'm not on ability wise, if he's a 10, what is Reece James in your opinion, Lou?
Are we talking on the ball?
Like ability as a football, as a right back, his ability. What would you rate?
Oh, I think like an 8, for example.
So there's not a big gap then.
Hang on, if I'm talking on the ball though, I'm saying like if you're saying like for me, there's a huge gap between.
So is Trent the best? Is Trent the best right back in the world on ability on the ball?
Yeah.
So you're going to rate him a 10 then, right? So what would you rate Reece?
I guess an 8.
So there's not a big gap then.
No, but for example, I could be you could be the best salesman at your company, and we could work for the same company. You could be the second best salesman. I could be the best salesman, but I could still sell millions more units than you do. Just because you're the second best doesn't mean that you're anywhere near me.
I feel like it only seems close because we're capping it at 10. I feel like
Yes.
he's saying like, and I get exactly what he's saying, because it's like, as like he's trying to like let us know that like he doesn't want to take anything away from Reece James because he's a fantastic player. But it's like what we've seen Reece James do. I mean, not Reece James, Trent do. Some of the things he's done, it's like certain midfielders aren't even doing it. So it's like the things he's doing, it's like there was even one specific ball that he put in, I think it was last week, where it was like it was so tight that in my head, I'm like, for an early cross, there's only like 3 or 4 like midfielders in the world who can make a similar pass. And he did it at right back. So it's like, again, like I get what he's saying. Like Reece James is a terrific baller. Don't get it twisted. And I think he's a completely above average in terms of, you know, being on the ball, especially, you know, being able to, you know, put passes in, et cetera, et cetera. But I just think Trent, it's world class, like what he's able to do on the ball. So I kind of get what he's saying.
You sound
I hear that.
You remember when you were in school and there are kids who are like, oh, I got an A star, but it's not high enough. That's what you sound like right now. Like they're both like it's literally, if you make it 100, it's like, oh, instead of it being 8 out of 10, it's 80 to 100. Like
again, it's like I think we're doing a disservice by comparing them. Like again, it's like I feel like what makes Reece James so great is the fact that he's complete.
But do you know what? I hear that. Do you know what I think it is for me? I'm not a big ability person in the sense of I care about it, but I look at overall package in the sense of if we take it away from Reece and Trent, because Trent has got numbers. If I have a player that's got amazing ability, but he makes more mistakes, or he doesn't have the athleticism, or he doesn't have, I'll give you a great example. Jack Wilshere. Jack Wilshere in ability is one of the best midfielders this country has created, but he had a body made of biscuits. So when you look at him as an overall football player, we don't regard him as being the best. So I get your point. Like on ability, I would definitely pick Trent. But then there are so many other areas to a footballer. And right now, everyone's going to have a difference of opinion on who the best is on form, who's going to be the best. I am just excited about watching it progress. I think they have to be compared because they play in similar areas of the football pitch. The same as Bruno and KDB, very different type of football players. As an example, let's see what happens. You know, you've got you Arsenal fans have got like Emil Smith Rowe now coming into the mix with the kind of Mounts and the Fodens and everything else. Although that you can all sit there and list off these different nuances to their games, essentially they pick up very similar positions on the pitch, so they all have to be compared when you're debating who the best is.
My one point would be, and this is kind of for me anyway, what makes me think that Trent is clear, is if Thomas Tuchel and Jurgen Klopp were sat down and in a hypothetical world, they were given the option to switch. I think Tuchel would at least consider it and potentially even do it. I don't think Klopp would. That is my.
That's a good point. Anyway. That is a really good point. We are going to move on because we probably stayed on this subject a little bit longer than I thought we would. It wasn't even on the agenda today, but it's all good. Viewers, we're getting close to that 400 like mark, which is great. I wanted to ask another quick question and go to a gal first on this. Harry Kane, he's very close to breaking the all-time England goal scoring record. I see a lot of people on socials last night referring to him as a stat padder. You know, his goal scoring record as a footballer is overrated, etc. What's your take?
I think a lot of people were talking about this season primarily, Terry, not just overall his career. Because if you look at this season primarily, he has 19 goals this season. But guess what? Only one of them came in the Premier League. He has 12 goals this year for England in World Cup qualifiers. For Tottenham, he has 1 goal in the Premier League. He scored another 3 goals in the Conference League. He scored 2 goals in the Conference League qualifiers, and he has 1 goal in the League Cup. So it just goes to show you in where he's picking up his goals. In 10 games in the Premier League, he only has 1 goal to show for it. And when we judge strikers, we usually look at what they're doing in their league and what they're doing in the Champions League. But since he's not in neither, all he's done really this season was score that 1 goal. What he's done for his country, I get it, but you're playing against smaller teams. And that's why people are saying he's stat padding, because he's scoring all these goals in the qualifiers, the Conference League, where it's a lot easier. But where it matters, he hasn't been delivering this season.
I don't think that's fair. And I'm an Arsenal fan. I hate the fact that I'm about to put my cap on for this guy, but I don't think that's fair at all. Like, Spurs have been like the, if not worse, top 4 worst like in terms of chance creations. They're not doing any favors for him. They've just sacked the manager. Like, I remember listening to like how people were saying Aubameyang was washed last season. And the main thing Arsenal fans said was he wasn't been given service. So it's like, why can't we look at the same? Because it's like, I would then ask you, who's their best creator on their team right now that can
But Femi,
put out?
when we talk about Aubameyang, do we count his Gabon goals? Do we count his goals in Gabon? Did we count his Europa League goals? No, we literally just look at his performances in the league.
I mean, because
That
he's
isn't
not in
true.
England.
Yeah. No disrespect to any of the African nations. Like, most fans, like, you consume football, and a lot of your Twitter feed is consuming football in England or based on the England's the English league. So you hear a lot more people talk about this. Like, if you literally were living where he's from, and the majority of your Twitter feed, like, for instance, I have what's trending in Manchester on my Twitter feed. So I know what's trending in Manchester as a city, as opposed to even London, because it's still set up from when I was predominantly covering Man United stuff on social media. So I see more what people are talking about in Manchester than anywhere else in the world. If you change your settings to see what was being spoken about in another country, another part of the world, you wouldn't see as much stuff about Harry Kane. Like, you have to be aware of what you're doing there. But you care about the goals that your players score in Europe. There's no way you don't.
Do you think that Thomas Partey is stat padding for Ghana right now? Because technically speaking, he only has one goal for us in Prem in his career. But then he goes to Ghana, and then he's scoring banger after banger over there.
I don't mention his goals in Ghana when I'm talking about a debate between midfielders. I don't mention his goals in Europe. If I talk about ESR, I'm not going to mention his goal for England. I'm going to talk about his performances.
You will.
Your issue is less with Kane, and it's more with the fans.
Let's be real. Let's keep it real.
No.
You guys here, Terry, when you talk about Rashford, do you talk about his goals for England, or do you talk about his performances for Manchester?
It depends on. Hang on a minute. It depends on the It depends on the conversation. I feel like Harry Kane's being targeted. Harry Kane's one of the most disrespected football players I've ever come across in football. Where every time he's criticised for not achieving something, when he does, the goalposts are moved again. It's first year he was scoring the goals. He's a 1-season wonder. He was a 2-season wonder. Will he do it in the Champions League? Can he do it in the big? He's done it in quite a lot of big games, as in not finals. The one thing that's still true, goal scoring in major finals is almost like the last final thing, and obviously winning those trophies are the last two things. But I put a fair bit of money on it right now that if he does score in a final and does win a trophy, people will find a way of discrediting that away from him as well. And I feel like this is the one season since he's been a prominent figure for his club and country where he scored lots of goals but doesn't have very many in the Premier League. People are jumping on it like a bitch in heat because they've been waiting to get at him for a long, long time. I see some people tweet joking. I don't care about people having a laugh and a joke and a bit of banter on socials. I'm talking about legitimate threads talking about how of all these England goals, something like 12 or 13 of penalties, lots have come against these smaller nations. And then these same people, you sit on their Twitter feed, I like to have an investigation. They're celebrating Ronaldo and Lionel Messi's goal scoring record when they've scored a lot of goals against some seriously poor teams as well. I just feel like, yes, it's wrong to claim that Harry Kane with this goal scoring record is the same as Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney isn't England's greatest ever striker. I don't put him above the likes of Jimmy Greaves, that helped us win World Cups. I don't do that, but he's one of the best goal scorers we've had. No one's claiming Harry Kane is the greatest goal scorer to ever come from these shores because he's about to break that record. He has no trophies to his name. He's got to add that to it. But to call him a stat padder for scoring against these minnows in the same way that Lewandowski's done in the past, the same way as Miroslav Klose had done on an international level, I just find it a bit nauseating. It's like anything to have a go at Harry Kane. It's every week there's something new to have a pop at him about. It's terrible. And yeah, he needs to win some trophies, but it's crazy to call him, like, I've seen a lot of people like, I always knew he was a stat padder. This now proves it. Come on.
I will say though, like it's a difficult point, but I need to be careful how I explain this, but last night kind of proved to me why I will never accept anyone's argument when they use international goals to try and say that Ronaldo is better than Messi. Because there is a big difference between European qualifiers and South American qualifiers. It's a fact. That's why I think it would be a legit. Stat pad is a bit harsh, but it is a legitimate argument to say that it is far easier to score against because you play smaller opposition in European European qualifying games than in South American qualifying games, for example.
Okay, and it's a lot easier to score in the Conference League and Europa League, which he's been doing over the past couple of seasons, than it is to score in the Champions League. So that's why when we look at Premier League and Champions League goals, we say it's harder to score.
Yeah, but he has 24 Champions League goals in 24 Champions League games.
And guess what? Do you want me to name how many of those goals in the Champions League were against big teams? I think we went over this the other day, Terry.
Yeah, I know we did, and it was something like about 8 or 9 of them. But then
no, it was not. I will look at it again. I'll tell you.
It was
like 4.
I think it's
again, it depends what you define as big team. That's
that's
what it depends.
Again, I feel like I hate the fact that I'm going to bat for this guy, but it's like I feel it's like if we look at like the big most strikers record against bigger teams, because again, there's less big teams that are small teams in general in the world league, right? Yeah. There's more small teams that are big teams in general. And then on top of that, because they're a hard team, if they're tactically attuned just even a little bit, that probably means that they're going to focus, if not their entire game plan, around nullifying someone that they know is a top tier talent. So yeah, it will be harder. Do I think you should do better in these big situations? 100%, especially if you're going to be in these conversations of the best strikers. If you're going to be in the conversation of the best strikers in Prem that we've ever seen, then yeah, I feel it. But I just
6 of his 24 Champions League goals.
Yeah, but even last season, didn't he just win the Golden Boot and the assist record in the same season?
He was robbed of Player of the Year last year.
I'm not talking about his whole body of work of his career, but I'm saying there is moments.
Yeah, I'm talking about last season.
But you're missing the point I'm making there, Miguel. If people said this season Kane's really been stat padding, no one would care. It's the whole I've always told you he was a stat padder, i.e. you're bringing up his Champions League record and saying that he's stat padding, which is so you're literally proving the point that we're making is you're using this one anomaly season to undo 7 years of consistency. His goal scoring record.
Terry, remember we were on the show last year when we were talking about why Harry Kane should win this award, and I was saying, you guys, he should not be winning this award because he got 4 assists versus this team, he got 2 goals versus his team, and I broke down a list of goals where he scored against teams, and majority of those goals came against smaller teams. But right now, that's not what the
once you score a goal, you should just miss.
So what I would say, David, what I would say is this: 7 of his goals are against good quality teams. He scored in 2016 against Monaco. Back in 2016, Monaco were firing, right? So let's contextualize it. He scored against Dortmund. He then scored his next big team he scored against again was Dortmund. Then it was Juve. Then it was Barca. PSV Eindhoven. Are we going to call them? Really going to do that? No, listen. Let me finish my sentence. I'm not going to call them a big team, but I wouldn't call PSV Eindhoven like they're not Sheriff or someone like that level, but cool. He then scored against Dortmund. He then scored against Olympiacos. He then scored against Bayern Munich and whatever. And look, Olympiacos, I swear they've dumped you out of tournaments in recent times. But like the point I'm making is like it's not a bad record. And the one thing that goes against Harry Kane is I don't think he's ever been in a team with the mentality to do better. The interesting thing is for me, if he moved to, that's why I was desperate. Again, if I take my Man United hat off, I didn't want him to go City. If I put my football fan head on, I wanted him to go to a team that that's used to winning, that's created to win now in the contemporary sense, and then see how he does it. If he spends 3 or 4 years at a Man City, doesn't score in a semi, doesn't score in a final, doesn't win a trophy. But I know what will happen if he goes City, because this is what I mean by the goalpost. If he went City and scored 25 goals and won the league, people would look for every reason to say, yeah, but KDB was the driving force and Cancelo was this. Harry Kane was just picked up a medal. But what did he really do? That's going to be the narrative. Like, unless he goes there and breaks a goal scoring record to win a league title, he'll still be ridiculed for it. And that's why I feel a bit sorry for him, because at the end of the day, like I've never seen a player score the level of goals he's done and him not be universally respected for it. It's crazy to me. Crazy. A
good way to, like I said, that comparing like South American and European qualifying is difficult. But if you compare Kane to other top strikers in Europe in terms of his goal per game ratio, he's better than Lukaku, better than Ronaldo, better than Lewandowski internationally. So if you're comparing him, and at each group has kind of got their like whipping boys, really. Like I think Mbappe paid Kazakhstan this week. So if you're comparing him in Europe, Kane is lethal.
And you can sorry, but over the years, everyone gets like at some point, all of these teams have played San Marino. Do you get what I mean?
It does feel like we always get San Marino though. Like I don't know what it is, but it feels like every.
But we went through years. We went through years where we didn't. When Rooney was in his pomp, like I remember 3 or 4 times, I'm like, why can't we get San Marino for Rooney to get more? Like I was desperate for it because I knew he'd get more goals. But like I've said, has Harry Kane got some flaws? Yes. Does he have to achieve more to be considered an all-time great? Yeah, the goals are not enough. He needs trophies, he needs titles. But I think anyone calling him a stat pad or proving this season makes him like, overrated. I think you're clutching, man. I think you're really, really clutching. He's a tremendous goal scorer. He needs to add a few trophies, and then he's one of the best we've ever had. Simple as that.
He's going to be worrying under Conte.
No, he's not. It's not going to work out at the end of the day. Harry Kane's gonna score a bunch of goals over the next couple of weeks. They're going to start flying. They're going to do well. Come the end of the season, it's going to cripple down again. They're going to struggle to get into the top 4. They're probably going to struggle to even get into Europe. And come the end of the season, Harry Kane's going to want to leave again. That's just what's going to happen.
You're not fearful at all of Conte being a world-class manager at Tottenham.
Conte's a world-class manager, great manager, but guess what? It is Tottenham Football Club, and I'm not worried this season. I think we're easily going to finish above them.
I think we have to wait. I think we have to wait till the end of December to see how they shake out, man. I think it's probably the hardest. Again, maybe I'm new to this, but like this is the toughest I've seen Prem in a long time, man. Like West Ham is trying to challenge for top 4 at this point, man. We don't know what's going to happen by March. Talk this up, especially with people with having, people have Europa League, some people have Conference League. And we'll see, especially like I want to see what each of these managers do during that transfer window, that January transfer window, because if you're one of those managers that believe like, okay, I can do what I can with whatever that's going on, like you're going to get left behind. So we'll see what happens. I can't confidently say anything about Conte because at the end of the day, I've seen the wonders that Conte can do with just mentality alone at times. I've seen what he does with someone like Victor Moses. I've seen it like with my own eyes. So it's like, who's to say that he doesn't turn this team into like just a tough team to beat? I'm not even saying world beaters, but just, the next time we go and play them, I can see him making them a team where they're hard to play each and every week. So who knows?
You're not. So Egal, you're very confident that Tottenham are going to do
Egal,
well.
don't let them trap you, man.
No. I'm just saying. The guy's very confident with a manager who's won, what is it, like 5 league titles in 7 seasons or something. But with his current manager, he's saying that they're comfortably going to finish ahead, even though history shows that whatever happens with Arsenal under Arteta, you finish 8th. You're not worried about that at all.
I said
you're not worried at all. Okay. I just find
you know what?
The paradox is very
interesting. It's fair that Igal's got that opinion. I just look at, obviously we were talking about Kane and stuff, and like I said, I think he gets massively disrespected. I actually get where Igal's coming from, because it's one of those things that we were talking about, like England being successful on Twitter yesterday, and people are like, no, unless you win the World Cup or Euros, England can't be considered a success. I'm like, that's cap. England are a very unsuccessful nation internationally. Two finals in 149 years is not success. You look at the successful nations, both in South America and Europe, that have regularly got to semis and to finals. It was only the World Cup followed by the Euros is the first time in England football history that we've won our opening 2 games of a tournament. And we didn't even do it because we drew Scotland. Sorry, I'm actually a liar. I'm a liar. Do you know what it was? I remember doing this. That's why I'm a liar. I was doing the stats before the game, looking at things, and I was like, if we beat Scotland today, it's the first time in English football history that we won our opening 2 games of a tournament, two tournaments running. So when we've got to a semi and a final 2 tournaments running, our qualification campaigns have been great. As an Englishman, and I'm assessing my nation, that progression is success. Is that where I want our success to stop and celebrate that forever? No, I want us to go to that next level. It's like if West Ham come 3rd this year, that's success. They can't start coming 3rd every single year. There'll come a point where they'll go, right, but we want to go to that next level now. There's relativity to all of it. Yeah, it is fluid, and you need to assess things, where things are, where you're going. It's a really good way to kind of look at that. But equally, like Conte, you look at Tottenham, their level of success is different to what Arsenal expect, Chelsea expect, Liverpool expect, because they haven't really had any, as an example. He could do himself. Like Conte could become one of the most successful managers in Chelsea's at least Premier League history, if not their overall history, by turning this season around and making the top 4, picking up a Conference League trophy and grabbing a League Cup. Imagine he won a League Cup and a Conference League in the same year. Like, he has the ability to do that as a manager. I'm not saying be fearful of him, but he's got this task on his hands where everyone's writing him off because of Spurs' history. What an achievement it would be. That wouldn't be the same as winning a Champions League or winning a Premier League. And I know Jose always jokes that coming second with Man United was a massive achievement. And I think he's being very sarcastic with that. But Conte getting into the top 4 this year, with how far Spurs are away, with people like Igal saying what they're saying, that in itself is massive success for who they are as a club. It's huge.
It would be a miracle. But let's see if he can work miracles.
We'll see. But then the point is, if he does it, then that's what a lot of people are saying. It's a miracle if he does it. And if he does, then you've got to call him beyond great. And that's what I find interesting about all this. I can't put the comments up anymore. StreamYard, stop pushing them through, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm very, very sorry about that. We have passed the 400 like mark, though. So I am going to give you another update to win the PS5 and to win the... How I want to make sure I phrase this in the right way. So we know that the first clue was Arsenal have got a big connection. The second one I'm going to give you is... it can drive football fans crazy. That's what I'm going to say, that it can drive football fans crazy is the next clue that I'm going to give you. So Arsenal have got a connection to this, and it can drive football fans crazy. Smash the like and the share button, people. I can't put any comments up that are coming through. I'm very, very sorry. We had a super chat that says, Igal, you forgot that Spurs aren't a team of great European pedigree. Small team is... And that's the irony as well, by the way, about Harry Kane's goals. If they're such a small crap team and he scored 6 or 7 goals against big sides, that's massive, isn't it? It's a great point. It's not my point. I'm not plagiarizing it. So if they're a tiny crap team and he scored 6 goals against massive sides, surely that's huge.
No, that's the face of a boy that knows he's put himself into a corner.
No, let him get his hat trick against Leeds, and let's see what he does. I generally do think they're going to do well come until the end of the season. But yeah, I gotta go, Terry. Have yourself a wonderful day, guys.
Yeah, take care, mate. No, he did have to go at this point. He ain't just capping out because of that.
I just got to say that only one man is winning the Golden Boot. Thank you. Thank you.
Mo Salah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mo Salah should win it from... If Mo Salah doesn't win it from now, it's not an embarrassment, but it would be...
I mean, he's going to AFCON, which could be something.
Imagine in AFCON, freaking Mikel Antonio scores to 13 goals.
Mikel Antonio. I'd love Mikel Antonio to win the gold. Like, legit, I would love him to win.
Yeah, but that's because you've got no one that can.
See, listen, when it comes to Man United, like, again, I've got to take the banter on the chin right now because we're awful as a club. Everybody knows as well, every time that today, the response I saw from fans when the pictures of Ollie going back to training came out, that tells me everything. There's genuine happiness is still there, but underlying fear that if a top manager comes in at Man United, if Conte can turn around Harry Kane, and most of I think us 3 and 4 in here said that can happen, a top manager can start getting goals out of Man United's players.
You know my opinion on this, Terry.
But but your opinion is cap.
What's his opinion?
His opinion is because we don't have a holding midfield player, no manager can get us playing well.
I don't think that's nonsense. If you really think about it in the way the game is playing, because again, Man United is a team that like they want to be the top of the top. Like getting second, third, fourth, that's cool and dandy. But then what's the difference between this year and last year then? Their goal is to be the top. And if you're going to be at the top, that means like you can't have many weaknesses in your game. And unfortunately, even if you're scoring crazy goals, the problem is once a team sets in a low block and they're like, okay, break this up, you're going to need things that they don't have, which is right now, one, they don't have a fluid buildup. It's terrible in terms of getting the ball from the goalkeeper to the front of the field. Terrible. And then 2, when it comes to like, let's say they lose the ball in certain areas of the pitch, they completely don't know what zones to be in. They don't have someone to kind of impose themselves in games, especially in the midfield. It's you can get Ronaldo and that all that attack to be firing?
But
Can you get them to
every
press?
team has holes, though. This is the thing.
Do you know
It's a lot deeper than.
Do you know what, Femi? Do you know what, bro?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I agree with your points on that. You've said something very different to what Louis has said, because Louis basically said we should have bought a CDM instead of Ronaldo, and to a degree, to a level, I agree with that. However, what you said there about the fluid build-up play, zones to be in when we lose the ball, if we had a world-class manager come in now and look after us and coach us, we would improve those areas. And as you said, you sort of said in your speech, we could score goals. My point is, a top manager now, because we go back to what Louis was saying, is we can't have anyone who's going to score goals. I think a top-class manager gets us scoring again. And, you know, we have players that could win a golden boot. Ronaldo could win a golden boot if chances of being creative for him. The difference is where I agree with Louis, but Louis goes too far, in my opinion, is for us to win a Premier League title, maybe that whole of CDM.
That's what I said.
Would be a small area. Yeah, but again, you're going to a level as if we've got a manager that was capable of winning the league in the first place.
No. But Terry,
you're
making out like it's
you guys need to
revamp.
I think you guys need to revamp the whole defense, if we're be quite honest.
Yeah,
like I think
I
even
agree.
as much as like I think like I may get killed for this, but De Gea just gives me Leno vibes. It's kind of like he's a fire putter out, like he puts out fires, but he doesn't prevent them. I don't know how to explain that in the best.
He's an excellent shot stopper, but
yeah,
he's got that mistake in him. Every game he'll have that one moment where you go, "Why have you?"
But it's
done
not
that?
even the mistakes. Sometimes it's even as much because again, like the point we had before when we're talking about how the game is evolving, especially in different positions. What I'm learning is some of the best teams have a keeper that understands the exact pass to play in order to start the build-up. Like the build-up doesn't start from just the defenders or the midfielders.
Bro,
like,
I hear you. David De Gea is out of date. David De Gea, the goalkeeping positions have evolved and we're at a point where he isn't of the standard to deliver what's needed. The irony is when he first came to the Prem, he was because it's evolution. Things evolve and change, like we were talking about earlier. But go back to the point. I don't disagree that Man United's squad has got holes in it. I actually think all of our squads have got holes in them. But the difference is when you look at Chelsea, City, and Liverpool, is you have a world-class manager and coaching system wrapped around it to cover those holes and those problems. Man United would still do fine with a world-class. If you gave Jurgen Klopp or Pep this Man United squad now, they can make it challenge for the Premier League title. Irrespective of those things that are problem, I still think they would challenge for the Premier League title. They're that good a manager. They're that good a manager. Ooh, I don't know where that's coming from. I'm not too sure. I think that was coming from Louis' computer. That's Louis' computer that was coming from there, so I muted. But everyone will have a difference of opinion on that. The great thing about it is we're never going to get an answer until we get a world-class manager in. It's one of those great opinions you can give in football of like, I don't think Trent would have been as good as this if Klopp didn't manage him. But he did, so we don't know. It's an intriguing one. I've got some super chats to read out here. Very sorry, boys. Alan says, "Is the phrase 'but yours is gold'?" No, it isn't. Is the phrase "battle of the buffet"? That's a very good guess there. Is the phrase "attractive football"? Is the phrase "the refs are against us"? Is the phrase "London is red"? Is the phrase "when is it going to end, Robbie"? Is the phrase "on an unbeaten run"? Is the phrase "is yours gold though"? Is the phrase Rabona? All very good guesses. None of them are the secret football terrace phrase. Football phrase. Doesn't really roll off the tongue too well, but there we go. But great guesses, people. Gents, I really appreciate you all coming on today and having your say. Great debates. There's a good challenge, good differences of opinions as well. Femi, thanks for coming on and making your debut on the terrace, mate. Great to get you back on again, my brother. David, pleasure as always. He looks like the shortest 6'5" man you've ever met in your life when he's on camera because he slumps. And Louis looks like the tallest 5'2" man you've ever met in your life. I know, Louis. How tall are you, Louis? Is it 5'2", 5'3"?
6'6".
Yeah. I'm not too sure why we're getting bad echo from you. You must have turned your earphones off or something. But listen, everyone who's tuned in, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace. It's not ended yet. It's doing something very weird. It's not ended. We're still live. It won't let me end the broadcast. I don't know what that means.
I was about to start being shameless.
I'm gonna end the stream manually. I don't know if it's finished. It has now finished.